We've gotten some good movies this fall. Unfortunately, we've also gotten some pretty bad ones. Some insanely bad ones. And insane is an appropriate word, because there's this strange running theme of these movies either being made by psychos or starring psychos. So now I'm gonna tell you about it. But before I do, first I just want to apologize to my girlfriend Bree, who weathered every minute of the movies I'm about to talk about. Lord knows it was grueling, and I owe her a lot. But with that out of the way, without further ado, let's get this over with. When I first heard about Megalopolis, it sounded legitimately cool. It was a completely original film from a legendary filmmaker who was funding it entirely out of his own pocket, even apparently needing to sell an entire vineyard that he owned just to be able to foot the bill for this. But as more and more behind-the-scenes stories came out, it started to become clear why nobody else wanted to pay for this. And unfortunately, my excitement started to fade more and more. There were stories about him apparently taking entire shooting days, leaving everybody waiting for him, while he just spends all day in his trailer, claiming that he was brainstorming, but was actually just smoking weed. There were stories about him filming party scenes where he went around kissing the women extras on the mouth to, quote, get them in the mood. Yeah, because nothing gets women more in the mood than just an unexpected kiss on the mouth from an 80-year-old man. So with all these stories, my excitement at seeing a good film slowly disappeared. But my curiosity remained, especially as it started to premiere at festivals, and the people who got to see it early started talking about it. And they said it was incomprehensible. So I still wanted to watch it, just to see if it was the work of a mad genius or just madness. It's just madness. The story is completely nonsensical, and it goes a million different directions and nowhere at the same time somehow. There's so many stories going on here, and none of them are explored in a satisfying way. Adam Driver's character is trying to rebuild this city with this new special element called Megalon, and it's this really cool golden element that can do anything. But why bother with that? Let's ignore that for mostly a story about him and the mayor's daughter, and he's a rival with the mayor or something. Oh, and then also at the same time, he's got another woman that he's with. But let's just ignore her for most of the movie, even though he starts a relationship with another woman and nothing connects. Hey y'all, I'm actually editing this video right now, and I realized that I completely forgot to mention the time-stopping power that he has in the trailer. Like, this main thing that they marketed the movie on was so irrelevant that I completely forgot about it. He has it at the start of the movie, never really uses it, then he loses it at a certain point, and that affects nothing, and then he gets it back, and he still does nothing with it. It's completely pointless. Just like so much stuff in this movie. In fact, I'd say most of the focus is the rivalry between Adam Driver and Giancarlo Esposito playing the mayor. And it's mostly just them arguing. But you can't really follow what they're arguing about because the dialogue is even worse than the story. You can almost never understand what anybody is talking about at all. It feels like Coppola was trying to replicate Shakespeare with his writing, but didn't understand Shakespeare. That writing was weird and different, but it was very structured. There was a science to it. This just feels like he's using a bunch of big words in every single sentence to say almost nothing. It's painful to sit through. The only straws I could possibly grasp at to find a point to what he was trying to say is that maybe he was trying to say that rich and powerful people are bad. Good job, buddy. Nobody else has ever said that before. The only positive about this movie that I can think of is maybe the visuals. I actually do like that the city is a very distinctly American city, but it also takes very heavy-handed inspiration from Rome. I do just think it's cool because Greek and Roman culture have been ingrained in the DNA of American culture since the very beginning. Plus, there's a lot of gold. I like gold. It's one of my favorite colors. There are some sequences in this movie that are more visual driven than story driven, and I like how imaginative and abstract they are. But the things I like about them are completely soured by the fact that I feel like they're trying to say something, but what they're trying to say is once again completely incomprehensible and kind of worthless. That problem permeates every part of this film. The visuals, the dialogue, the story, everything feels like a waste of time. Just like Coppola wasted everybody's time sitting in his trailer, this movie's just wasting the time of all the people that are watching it. It's just a bloated mess that is hard to get anything of value out of. So, I gotta say, Megalopolis, more like Mega Trashulous. Back in 2019, I remember people either loving or hating the movie Joker. Now that time has passed, the general opinion seems to have shifted more towards disliking it, and most of the complaints are that Todd Phillips just can't be bothered to have an original idea, mostly just ripping off Martin Scorsese. I have always, to this day, seen it as just an okay movie. Okay to pretty good. Because even though it is borrowing everything, I think it borrows it well. I think it does take its borrowed ideas and sort of form them into a decent interpretation of the character. This is not the case with Joker Folie à Deux. Phillips continues to borrow ideas instead of come up with new ones, and this time he's decided to borrow from jukebox musicals. Okay. At first, this almost kind of makes sense. The first film dealt a lot with Arthur's grip on reality. There were a lot of moments where you can't tell what's real and what's in his mind. And neither can he. This tendency to slip into fantasy actually kind of blends well with the idea of bringing in musical sequences. So at first, it almost seems like they could fit together pretty well. But unlike the first movie where Todd Phillips knew how to incorporate Scorsese-isms into a Joker story, he does not know how to incorporate musical numbers into a Joker story. They are so lazily written in. When they come on, they have almost nothing to do with what's going on. Most of them have maybe a small tangential connection to what's happening through like a few lyrics or maybe the title of the song. But for the most part, you could cut them out entirely and it would change nothing about the story or the characters, which is the opposite of how musicals work. On top of that, they're just boring. The song choices span the era of the 50s to the 80s, which is music that I like, but they made these song and dance numbers so just mildly entertaining that they barely affected me at all. So, what about the rest of it? The stuff that's not music. It's also boring and pointless. It's just a long, drawn-out courtroom drama. Yeah, just about the whole movie is that. And at times it just feels ridiculous. And not in a fun way. In a, they want you to take this seriously, and I just can't way. And most of the time, it feels like it's just repeating back to us everything we already know about the character from the first film. Yeah, any moments of character exploration in this feel so redundant because it just feels like they're covering the exact same ground as the first movie. That is, until the very end. I don't want to give away too much, I don't like to spoil things even if this movie isn't worth your time. But what I'll say is this. They must have felt like they were being very bold because they undo everything they've built up for 2 movies. And that would be one thing. But it's done in such an over-the-top, edgy way that it feels insulting. It's like a 15-year-old's idea of how to make something deep and dark and twisted. And it genuinely makes me mad. Because I feel like they want me to believe that this is a mature product, but they couldn't think of anything more to add to it than just shock value. So, I gotta say, Joker Folie à Deux, more like Joker Folie à Trash. Oh yeah, Lady Gaga's in this and she plays Harley Quinn. This headlining character felt so irrelevant that I forgot to even mention her. The scene with the kicking on the stairs isn't even in the movie! I feel like I'm normally a pretty positive reviewer, so it feels weird giving out 2 trash ratings in one video, when I barely even give that rating out in general. But these movies deserved it, and I saw them just days apart from each other. It was a painful waste of time, and now I'm in pain all over again. So, thank you for watching. Sorry if you're in pain now too. What did we learn from all this? Nothing.